Well, guys, we got a great bunch of you online here tonight, and things are looking great. We're excited to have Barry Farris join us. Still yet to be determined whether Chris will get off the golf course in time to join us, but I want to share a little bit about some leadership. Part of what we're really excited about with Team TNT Synergy is not just focusing on talking about the business, not just focus on talking about the industry, but as well what we want to always focus on is talking about leadership, because we know that in this business, the way that this business is going to grow exponentially is by focusing on developing leaders. Leaders are who, that's when great change and massive things happen. So let's dive in. And actually, just there's a little bit of clearing the throat going on in the background. So maybe anybody who's not just can mute your end, and we'll be good to go here. So there's a book that I've been reading called "Launching a Leadership Revolution," best leadership book I've ever read, and I want to discuss a little bit out of it tonight and share some of the things that I've been learning to challenge you before we dive into our topic for tonight. When we look at leaders in society, I was actually looking up on Fortune magazine, and they talked about the top 50 leaders, and it was interesting for me to look at. A lot of the leaders they listed were either CEOs of large corporations, political leaders, some religious leaders, military leaders, entertainment people in the entertainment industry. Some of these pictures you see. I was interested to see Fidel Castro and Che Guevara on the top couple there. But the gentleman I want to focus on a little bit tonight, because I think when I've been looking at his life a little bit, it's really been very interesting, is Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin was one of the U.S.'s most distinguished and diverse founding fathers, and he actually lived quite a prosperous life, really a change from rags to riches. Spoke a lot of languages, dined with anywhere from ambassadors to philosophers, published tons of things, lots of inventions, worldwide fame. He was one of the only to actually to sign both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. He created many different inventions like the bifocals, the Franklin stove, musical instruments, and obviously, experiments with lots of things involving electricity. So lots of big things that Benjamin Franklin is known for. And the question is then, how did he accomplish so much in just one lifetime? How did he rise up to end up wielding such incredible power and commanding so much respect all around the world? Well, obviously, part of it is he's a genius, but it goes way beyond, because even geniuses must follow some laws of success. And a lot of Benjamin Franklin's achievements were the result of very, very deliberate effort, not just pure luck, not just the genes he was born with. In his autobiography, Benjamin Franklin talks about some of the trouble that he had relating to people as a young man. A friend of his actually took him aside one day and very boldly said, Benjamin, there's a lot of people who don't like you. And he was kind of taken aback and maybe not totally shocked, but said, basically people can't stand to be around you. You're too argumentative and opinionated. And in fact, oftentimes people will even, change the side of the street they're walking down just to avoid running into you. So Benjamin Franklin's, the way he responded to this truth and this confrontation in his life was really a massive component in his success. He changed a lot of the ways that he started to relating to people. He really started developing on who he was as a person. A lot of the personal development that he went and just really focused on. And these are actually a list of 13 attributes that Benjamin Franklin started focusing on in his life. And that's really the turning point of when Benjamin Franklin started to become a very, very influential person, and a person that we still look at in history. So what I want to talk about with you tonight before we dive in is, in order to become a leader, what is it that we need to focus on first before we can become influential? Too often in our world, we see people attempting to influence others when they are barely able to lead themselves. In order to become a leader, we must gain self-mastery, and that can only be accomplished through developing our own personal growth. Growth is not optional, and a leader's ability to influence others stems from our own personal abilities. Embarking on this leadership journey, oftentimes it's easy to feel frustrated, and because we see a lack of external results. We don't see enough effort coming forth. But the process of becoming a leader, it starts with a lot of effort, and it results in improvements in the inside world that we can't see, the external world that we can't see right away, because the gains are all internal. And I want to show you a picture here, because this draws a very, very good analogy. It's a building that we haven't seen yet, but it's actually the Stantec Tower. And it's the plan is for it to be a 66-story building. It'll be the largest building outside of Toronto in all of Canada. And that's going to be right across from Rogers Place. Well, they've been planning this building for many, many years. And up until now, what's been happening is, first of all, the architect has spent a ton of time doing drawings. The engineers have been spending lots and lots of time designing systems. Lots of permits involved. And now we're at a stage where there's digging and pouring, and the foundation's being poured, but we still can't see anything really happening. Well, once all of those things take place, the results are going to start being visible to us as we pass by, and we're going to start seeing this massive structure going up that is going to be ready to go in only 2 short years. And the parallel of that to leadership is incredible. We start to see, massive change as soon as we start really focusing on that personal development. And there's 3 areas, and this is something that I just am going to barely touch on tonight, but on our regional training that we're going to be doing in Edmonton on May 7th, I'm going to be expanding on this quite a bit. And this is something that gets me very, very excited. We're going to talk about 3 aspects of personal growth. And I'm actually going to be doing showing people how to measure this and see what's happening internally. And it's a combination of character development, tasks and how we accomplish those, and relationships, and just how we focus on relationships in our lives. So, this is something I've been looking at in my own life, and just looking at where I'm at and what I can improve to become a more effective leader. So this is the kind of thing that we want to really strongly encourage people in, because this is when things start getting really, really exciting. I would encourage every single one of you to spend time reading great books, on HighShare, which all of you should have received an invitation to. We've got audiobooks, some of the top in the industry, great PDFs and books that you can just spend time studying, and instead of turning on the TV one night, instead spend an hour and reading a good book. And that's what we really want to encourage, because you know what? That's when the skyscrapers go up and big things happen. So that's our little leadership nugget for tonight. Hope that's encouraging. If anybody on this line wants to talk to me about leadership and just some of the things I've learned, it's something I love to discuss and share what I've been challenged in my own life. So let's dive into our topic for tonight, and what we're going to be talking about is presenting to not. Last week we spoke about inviting, and just how inviting is the gateway to success. And in order to get any momentum in this business at all, we need to make sure that we're talking to people, having conversations. Well, the next step after doing inviting is to make sure that we're knowing what kind of presentation we're inviting people to. Are we inviting them to a phone call, or a private business reception, or a coffee meeting? These are some of the different ways. And one of the things that's really important, especially for men, just like men aren't very good at taking directions, we drive around in circles sometimes, and we need a a good woman sitting beside us to, make sure our head's on straight. Well, oftentimes men too don't know our limitations. That probably applies maybe to some women too, but understanding, and what I mean by that is knowing, when you're going to present the business, how far can you go in your capabilities of what you know right now? Because Trinant, and I mention this when we do presentations, Trinant is not a solo team business. It's all about working together as a team and making sure you access those around you who may be able to cover, some of the aspects that you're short in. So know your limitations. When you are in a presentation or a coffee meeting or anything like that, ask questions. So important to really ask questions of the person you're meeting with, because if we just go in there with an agenda and aren't really willing to listen to where somebody's at, it's not going to go very far. And something that when you're asking good questions, really be alert and aware of just the body language of the person you're meeting with and how engaged they are. If somebody's not looking engaged, maybe they're, something really obvious, like they're looking at their phone, or maybe their eyes are gazing off, or you're just kind of seeing a blank stare, you're going to have to change up what you're doing and tweak your approach. Other times people are leaning in and their body language shows that they're really engaged. Well, that means you're doing something right, which is awesome. So we're going to talk about a few of the different methods of presenting, and I'm really excited. I've actually got a good picture of you here, Barry. I hope I didn't clear it with you, but I'm thinking you're looking pretty good. Barry Farris. I've met Barry. Barry, I think I only met you for the first time in Vegas, actually, in January. I've known of you and I've watched videos of you forever, so you were a bit of a celebrity in my eyes. But Barry owns Quick Wash America in Frisco, Texas, a successful businessman. And he's been with Trinant, I believe, since September. So Barry, I'd love for you to come on the line and share a little bit of what you're doing in your meetings with folks as you're explaining the Trinant business.
We'll be glad to. One thing I want to update you, Doug, is I sold my 2 quick washes last year, and I actually bought another store in McKinney. So it's called the Masters Car Wash now. But you didn't know that, so.
Well, look, I just updated the presentation. It's now updated.
I know. It's called Masters. It's in Frisco, Texas. Just so you, or excuse me, in McKinney, Texas. Excuse me.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, that's good to know. Right on.
Yeah. Now, how do I get over to my screen?
Lyle, can you help Barry out with that?
So Barry, there's a taskbar in the bottom of your screen, and there's a green button that says Share Screen. Go ahead and click on that.
Okay. Okay. Can y'all see mine now?
Yep.
Cool. Well, one of the things that, and by the way, I wanted to share something with you guys because you're talking about leadership. One of the things that we recommend, or I especially do, I'm not going to say we, I'm trying to get everybody to recommend it, but there's a book that I've read. I'm actually reading it again. It was written by Jeff Olson. It's called The Slight Edge. I don't know if any of you guys have ever read that, but it's a phenomenal book. And it really just applies that if you just do a little bit more in a compounding effect over time, you're going to have success. But it's really good. Now, one of the things that I do on one-on-one, and what you said about asking questions, that's critical, because I ask a lot of questions, and usually they'll give me an answer and I'll ask another question. So it's just really kind of peeling that onion so that I know what that person's all about, what he's looking for, what his goals are, if he has any, and, if he's working in a corporate environment, how's that going? And it's funny, something I've done recently is, most everybody, at least in this part of the world, if they get a raise at all, it's sometimes a 3 or 4% raise. And I've asked the questions here recently is, what if I could show you how to get a 10% raise this next year? Would that be something that would be interesting to you? I don't talk about anything else and just wait for that response. But once we're past all of that, I like to do the presentation myself. And of course, when we get through going through this, most every one of the products or services I've got a personal experience with. And so, but you go through there and you talk about the telecommunications, the merchant processing, and all of this, what a big industry it is. And of course, we emphasize, and I emphasize in my meeting, is how important it is to save money, make money, but more importantly than that, most people don't know how to grow their money. Myself, for you guys that don't know me, I'm 62 years old, and I had never been shown an IUL, and that's I've got a lot of insurance friends, and it was really disappointing that they had never shared that with me. So from a standpoint of being able to protect my assets and create money tax-free, that's such a powerful tool. I'm going to skip back through here. Of course, we talk about the core products, and each one of these core products is one of the things, and I'll share something because my wife's walking around here in the kitchen, and we had never really had a tool that she could look and see where all our money is, and investments and credit cards and all of that kind of stuff. But she really loves the one view, so she can get on there and she can see where I'm spending money. I can see where she's spending money, and so she has a better feel in our household than we probably ever have. And so that's been a real positive. The Trinot Defend is a product that I love to share, because just a few weeks ago I had a compromise on my Mac, and it just popped up, said danger, and had a number to call. I called the number. Of course, I'd never seen that before, and it was somebody trying to sell me the services to fix it. Well, I just immediately called Defend, and they said, yeah, that's a scam going around. So they got on there and cleaned my computer all up. Took about an hour, and everything was good. So that was a great experience. The TaxBot product, I've actually been using that for about 5 years, and it's phenomenal for people that have never had a business. It's a wonderful way to track your expenses, your mileage. I just got back from New York today, and I drove around up there in a rent car, and of course I took advantage of that and logged all my miles and all my expenses. And then the Guardian Legal, a couple of weeks, it's probably been 3 weeks ago, we just had our first grandchild, and my son-in-law had told me he was going to have a trust developed, and he had met with a guy locally, and I knew the guy, and he came back to me and he said, well, he's going to charge me about $5,500 to do the trust. And of course I'm thinking, well, I had one done about 12 years ago. It was about $5,000. And I thought, well, maybe that's not too bad. But I said, Brad, we need to call Guardian and find out what they can do it. So he called them on Monday, and they had a standard rack rate for, your general trust for about $3,000. But they said, since you're a Trinot associate, you get it for $1,500. So that was a massive savings of $4,000 on what the guy was going to do it locally. So he was thrilled, and he's got that in motion. And then, of course, I mentioned the Trinot Life with the financial education. I had my insurance license when I was in college, but never believed that I would ever do it again. But I just recently took my test, passed it, so I'm waiting to get licensed here in the state of Texas, because we've got a lot of business in the pipeline. So I want to make sure that I can take advantage of that. Billy and one of his compadres is coming down next week. We're going to have a financial education boot camp, and that we're excited about that. I know you guys are fixing to kick that off, and it's going to be, man, I mean, some of the things that you guys are going to be able to do up there. I look at what y'all have done in such a short period of time with basically limited services, and now I can't even imagine what y'all are going to do with what's coming. So it's really exciting. You get into the retail services, of course, merchant processing. That's how I got introduced to this by Chris Rupati. He called me one day and asked me when the last time I'd got my credit card processing checked, and I laughed and I said, well, Chris, it's probably been 10 years ago. it's a relatively small item on my P&L, and so I just hadn't done it. Plus, the guy that was doing it was supposedly a good friend. So anyway, he said, I've partnered with this company that has various different services, and they guarantee the lowest prices in most situations. And if they don't beat your price, they'll give you $500. And I said, well, let's just check it. I thought, well, I'll get a $500 gift card. My wife loves to go out and eat, so we'll take advantage of that. So anyway, they called me. I sent them my information, and to my surprise, they beat my price by 19.5%, which was $1,106 on that one particular month. So that was substantial savings. And then, of course, a couple months later, the satellite TV services came out, and we switched from Dish Network over to DirecTV and saved about $78 a month there for the first year, $38 for the second year, so a total of about $1,400. So that was pretty significant. Of course, I mentioned to you the legal services. The business phones has been a super deal for us. We had AT&T 7 lines, and we were spending about $630 a month for our phone services. And Jive called me and sent them the bill, same routine. We were able to reduce our phone lines down to 3. And my price now is $36. So I had to buy internet, so that cost me a little bit, but I'm saving right around $400 a month for that. So that was significant. The background checks, I've got a brother-in-law that's a COO in Midland, Texas, with an oil field service company, and they do background checks on all their truckers. He was paying about $78 to $80 per background check, and the same service through VicTig is $50. So that was a big savings for him, and he's going to be spreading the word out there in that area where all the truckers are. And then, of course, I mentioned the Defend. That's a product that, my brother-in-law, actually, one of my brother-in-laws, not the same one, but he had been, his identity had been stolen a few years ago, and he'd been with Envisys for about 6 or 7 years, and they had he just loves them. They do a great job, and that was always good. Of course, we'll go through. I'll just flip through some of these. Now, this one, Bliss. I know you guys. I understand you guys are got a pilot fixing to roll out on the cell phones. I know that's exciting. We're anxiously awaiting down here in the States, but this is going to be a big game changer for everybody. I think it's such a commodity, and of course the Verizon, AT&T, and Sprint, that's our big 3 down here, and so that'll be a great savings to all of our people there. This slide is something that you talk about saving money, making money, and growing money, and I think most people, it's funny because a lot of the people that I talk to, regardless at what income level they are, they all seem to do the same thing. They all seem to work paycheck to paycheck, spend everything they make, save very little, and they certainly don't know how to grow their money. And that's been very interesting to watch. This is an illustration. I'm sure you guys have seen this, but if you take an amount of money, $1, for example, and you double it for 20 periods tax-free, it's going to create a little over $1 million. Well, that's significant when you're talking about tax-free. Now, you do the same thing, and you take that same dollar, and you do it taxed as earned at a 27% tax bracket, it's only $57,000. So the comparison, when you look at this one simple slide, when I look at people and I say, hey, what do you think about that? And they go, wow, I want part of that. If they don't, something's wrong with them. They've got other issues is the way I look at it. But that's a pretty powerful statement right there by itself.
Hey, Barry.
Yes.
Can I just ask you a quick question, and then we'll have to get you to wrap up pretty quick here. But just a quick question. So when you're meeting with somebody, it sounds like what you're saying is you really want to make sure that you are benefiting from the products in a significant way. So you're just really sharing your story.
That's exactly what I do.
Yeah. Right on.
That's exactly what I do. And we put these slides in there because it goes to where we're really going. We're really, with the wealth product, that's really the core of what we're trying to do, is help people develop their wealth plan. And so the slides illustrate it very clearly. But yeah, basically what I do is I tell my story, but I ask a lot of questions in the beginning to see where they are. Are you looking for other opportunities? And I usually pre-qualify that before we sit down anyway.
Right on. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Barry. I really appreciate you jumping on with us. We want to make sure to have you as a guest more often for sure, because, I think there's similarities between Texas and Alberta, right?
I suppose. I've got to get up there to see.
Are you guys suffering a little bit from the price of oil?
Well, actually, we're actually benefiting here because the price of gas is so low.
Right.
You go out into West Texas, where I came from, they're suffering significantly out there because they're they're laying up people off by the thousands out there.
Yeah, I bet. Right on. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Barry. We'll make sure to have you on again. We're going to, I'm going to mention a couple more things, and then we're going to go into our text blitz. So you're free to join us and see what us crazy Canadians do for text blitz if you're inclined.
All right. Thanks so much.
Okay. Take care. So Barry really had some great points there as far as, how to engage with people, and, whether it's face-to-face meetings or over the phone, but a lot of it is sharing our story and how we're benefiting from, the education and, the savings and the benefits that we get from the services. I just want to touch quickly on, some of the things in setting up a PBR, or a private business reception. This is where, in your home, you invite people to come and see what you're up to, and again, and the invitation doesn't include any information, but instead you just want to get people to come and open-minded, come and learn what you're doing. And, we have tear sheets available so people can, have the information. But some of the things as a host, you want to make sure that you do is, eliminate all distractions, making sure that, any noisy pets or crying babies, aren't within earshot, so that, there's just a really focused, as much of a business environment as possible. And, some of our hosts will have, drinks for sure, and some of them, provide little snack foods, and just to make it a real, comfortable and warm environment, and just a nice atmosphere, just to be aware of all of those things, it's tidied up, and then to always set up for the next exposure. We want to make sure every single conversation is ended with, when is that follow-up going to be? When is that next meeting? Don't leave it hanging, because then, and oftentimes you're starting from scratch. So those are some of the forms of presentation that we have. Let's jump into the text blitz. So I'm going to pop up a screen here that just as a bit of review from last week. Again, Eric Worre, who is a real master in the networking industry, talks about text blitzing as a very, very easy and fast, which makes it very duplicatable, which, because there's very, very quick action and quick results. And, in our society, that's what we need. We're that microwave society. So what we're doing is, first of all, you need to decide before you send the text, what are you inviting them to? Are you inviting them to a coffee? Are you inviting them to a three-way call, PBR, or to one of the weekly presentations? Because that's going to, depend on how you text. But so just a reminder, and hopefully all of you have, list of prospects that you're ready to start off our text list tonight. But the first text, you decide, but these are suggestions that come right from the pro himself, Eric Worre, as simple as coffee ? Or are you free tomorrow afternoon? Those are suggestions, just that initial text. When you get your reply, well, then you have to give them an idea. I've got something I want to run by you. I've got a project I'm working on. I need your help. Never, never, never get into giving lots of information. And there's a less of a chance of that happening over text than there is a phone call. So I'll leave this screen up, and let's all get our phones out and look at the list of people that you've got. And if you don't have a prospect list, then open up your Facebook, open up your contact list on your phone, and then start writing names down, start firing texts out. And what we want to do is the same thing we did last week, is in the chat box that you've got available, just write down, when you start getting responses. Maybe when you get to 2 or 3, write it down there, and because everybody else is muted, I'll kind of share people's results over the next 25 minutes, and we can kind of celebrate that together. And so let's get started. Last week, just as a refresher, Brian Eves and Rob Hyama, they tied at 5 as of 8 o'clock. Anyhow, be curious to know, how many more replies people got afterwards. But yeah, let's start doing some texts and share our results together. So I'll be quiet for a few minutes and then come back on.